So I was just talking to one of my students, and we were getting into it about the drums have so many components, and there's so many like pitfalls. Like, what kind of heads do you use? What size sticks do you use? Is that the right stick? Do you use plastic or wood? What kind of brushes do you use? Fun fact, for years I tried to find a plastic brush that sounded really good like a metal brush, because I was tired of going through the brush thing. You go on the road, you got to take 3 pair of brushes, Anyway, so I'm working on a series to kind of break down the different components that we have. There's so much confusion. What kind of seat do you use? What kind of hi-hat clutch do you use? How important is that? What size hi-hat cymbals do you use? There's so many little pitfalls that you could fall into. And yeah, that's what I'm here for. I went through a lot of different stuff to find this information. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite parts of the drum set, the bass drum pedal. The bass drum pedal really can make or break the experience. I mean, I've shown up with my pedal that I love, and there's a 22-inch bass drum, and there's a 16-inch floor tom or whatever. But by the time you tune up the drums, you put your cymbals on, and then you slap your pedal on, you can get to work, and it won't feel that different. And so much of what gets attributed to larger size drums is the feel of the way the heads feel. 16-inch feels way different than a 14-inch, and a 22-inch feels way different than an 18. But if the pedal's right, or your sticks are right, or your touch is right, and your hands are right, it's not that big a deal. So let's get into it with the bass drum pedal. This should be fun. Wow, it must have been a long time ago now. It must have been about 10 to 12 years ago. One morning I walked into the LaGuardia airport, and when I walked in there I saw a familiar face, but I couldn't place it because it was so early in the morning. I couldn't tell what was going on. It was Roy Haynes hanging in the LaGuardia airport. He was going to his house in Vegas. I'd seen him several times before, and typically what happened when I saw Roy was he didn't really know me, and so, old school, like, he would stop doing what he was doing. I would try to watch him tune or whatever. But finally, I think it was Marcus Strickland, or maybe David Wong, introduced me. And this particular morning, he was really, really comfortable with me, and really, really, we hung out. I watched his bag, and that thing that happens when you see somebody, out of place, right? When you're by yourself, the camaraderie that can happen. So I got to ask him some questions. I asked him about old records. I asked him about all kind of different things that he had done. But the thing we finally got around to was I asked him about why he carried a bass drum pedal. He notoriously only carried cymbals, a stick bag, and a old Ludwig Speed King. That's his bass drum pedal, and I've been told that he wouldn't play without that pedal. And so, I'm gonna get into all that he told me about. So I had 2 instances that really got me to understand how important the bass drum pedal was. The first one was very difficult. I had gone to Russia. It was a good tour with Mogru Miller playing piano, and we were getting into a good groove, and we wound up in Russia. One of my first times going to Russia, and we were playing the first set. I had practiced all day. Like I said, I was in a good groove. Things were progressing for me musically, and we got to Russia, and I practiced all day, and the gig comes that night, and halfway through the first set I feel a snap, and no more action on the bass drum pedal. Like, I'm done. But okay, set's almost over. I make it through the set, and then someone will fix it, right? We'll get a new pedal. Done, no harm, no foul. Except no one had a bass drum pedal. No one had one in their car. The club didn't have another pedal. There's no drum shop open. It was then that I realized that I was going to have to play a whole second set, 90 minutes of music, trio, solos and all. Mogru didn't take it easy on me. Matter of fact, I think he probably forgot. I was going to have to play a 90-minute set, no bass drum pedal. It was wild. Got through it, vowed that I would never go through that again. I learned my lesson. So now I'm taking a bass drum pedal with me everywhere that I go. I find myself on a tour, and I remember the day that it really got to be too much for me. We were in Turkey. I was in Turkey with Charlie Hayden, and the size of the bass drum hoop was too thick for the pedal that I bought with me, and it wasn't fit. It just wasn't fitting, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a problem. But the pedals they were okay. Like I could play, I could do what I needed to do, no problem. We get to Slovenia, and the hall is terrible. The drums are terrible. The piano is terrible, and I had it, and Charlie had it, and he said, "Listen, at least let's fix what we can fix." So he gave me his credit card, and I got this pedal, and I vowed that when I got back from that tour, I said, okay, I'm going to learn about the bass drum pedal. I'm going to make sure that when I bring a bass drum pedal, there's nothing worse than taking a piece of gear with you on the road and then not being able to use it. You got to carry this thing around with you from city to city, paying overweight or whatever, and you can't even use the thing. And you would send it home, except sending it home would cost more than the overweight, or probably cost more than the whole pedal is even worth. So you just carry it with you, and it's just a reminder every day of this mistake that you made. So eventually I studied, I learned all the different little parts about the pedal. I learned what I really liked, what could really make a difference, how to set the pedal up correctly, how much tension, how little tension, how far back should the beater be, what material should the beater have, all these things that really can just make or break the experience that you're going to have playing your music. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to share with you in this. I'm guessing it's going to be about a 3-part series. We'll see how it goes. It might be 5, it might be 1, it might be, whatever. So here we go. So I'm going to give a brief history of some of the pedals that I used. Maybe what I liked about them, maybe when I got them, and we'll just talk about whatever comes up. But first, I need to get the pedals. So I guess I will be right back with some pedals. Okay, so here we are. We're back with a few pedals that were pretty important in my development. One of the things that happens when you start playing the instrument and when you really start studying, you do, because of the nature of the instrument where we don't have these really starch, like, get this, get that kind of things, or teachers that teach these things and tell you exactly what to get. You just have to try things. Some of these pedals didn't work. Some of these pedals really did work great. Some of these pedals I still use today. So I'll start on my left. So after I talked to Roy Haynes swears by this pedal here. This is a Ludwig Speed King. This is the pedal he still uses to this day. Really hip. Like he puts the footboard like in his stick bag, and I don't know where he think this footboard's in the stick bag, and then this part, because it comes apart here, right? So you put this part, the footboard, like down in the side of the stick bag, and then I think this part kind of went in the cymbal bag some sort of way. It's a really, really smart design pedal, and so I see why people like it. I'll get into why I don't play it that often a little bit later when I talk about pedal action and that sort of thing. When I first got this pedal and started playing it, I played another pedal that I can show you later. Let me just go grab that pedal. Let's see what it is. Okay, so we're back. So when I played this pedal, I really liked it, but what I didn't like was the spring action. The way you have to adjust the springs, there's some screws in the bottom, and it was really weird. And then I played this pedal, the Ludwig standard pedal, and I really love this pedal. The problem with this pedal, as I'll get into later, was that the hoop clamp wasn't wide enough for me to do some of the things that I needed to do. So then I was on a tour with Kurt Rosenwinkel in Japan, and I saw this pedal, which is the Pearl Demon Drive pedal, and it's got the same, it's basically the same idea, but it, a more modern version. But the foot plate was the deal breaker in this pedal. But really customizable pedal. Later on I'll talk about actions, but there's two actions you can use here, which is more of a balanced action and then more of an accelerated action. We'll talk about that later. And so I got off that pedal. Then I got to one of my standards. I still use this pedal today. I have, whenever, I think I talked about it here before, but whenever I find something that really works for me, probably get 2 or 3. And so I have 2 of this pedal, totally balanced pedal. Elvin Jones uses the same pedal. I'll put that right here, Elvin's pedal. And when I saw that Elvin had the whole round cam, we'll get into cams. We'll talk about that when we get to cams later. I realized that I like belt drives because of the way we feather the bass drum. Again, it talks about action. So then I skipped over to this guy, which I have about 3 of these. This is so it was called 2 different things. Sometimes it was called the Camco pedal, but first it was the Gretsch floating action. Still, hands down, one of the greatest pedals you can get. Often imitated, never duplicated. And I've had different iterations of that. A lot of the Yamaha pedals are basically this. The DW pedal is basically this. There's been a lot of wars about the copyright on that. This pedal is really interesting because this is the Jojo Meyer pedal, and Jojo really, he studied a lot of the things that I found on my own, and he synthesized a lot of things, and he is a scientist, and so he went around and he constructed a pedal. And so I met Jojo maybe in '99, and we started talking about things, and I followed him, and I've been in drum shops because I too have put together pedals and have people put this footboard with that, and he did some of that. I'll put one of his pedals up here for you to see. But this pedal is what he did with Sonar a few years ago. There was a rumor that it was coming out with Tama or a couple of other companies, but it finally came out with a Sonar pedal with Sonar. The Perfect Balance. Really is a really great pedal. It kind of collapses and you can pack this whole thing in. I'm just not a fan of the footboard. And we'll get into that. But just to give you a little picture, like It took a long time. It took a lot of doing to try to thread the needle between what was overkill and what was something that I wanted to carry with me on a nightly basis, carry with me on the road, but that was dependable, that could fit all the hoops, that felt great, I wouldn't get tired of. To study the different feels, like what is a chain feel versus a belt drive. One thing you'll notice is none of my pedals have a toe stop. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of not having a toe stop. I've even had some pedals that I really loved where I took to a shop and had them grind off the toe stop. But then I found, I started just looking for pedals that didn't have a toe stop. So I'll talk about these pedals and I'll give some honorable mentions and drop a comment below. Let me know what pedals you like. If you have any questions, anything. Just let's wrap. Hope you enjoyed that first part of the foot pedal series. Check the links below for more content, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.